This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here with your latest Meteo Mundo forecast on this Sunday morning, October the 29th. Certainly a lot to discuss as we go through this forecast, but before we get started, because there's a lot to talk about and we truly want to create a community here at Meteo Mundo, I want to let all of you know that I'll be going live later this afternoon right here on the channel. It'll be a live chat and it will begin at 2 p.m. Atlantic Standard Time and Eastern Daylight Time. Come join me, ask me any question that you want. I would love to hear from you, where you live, what the weather has been like lately. If you have any questions, obviously we'll talk about what's happening right now. We'll talk about the week ahead and anything going forward as well. So again, come join me live, 2 p.m. this afternoon. Do yourself a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. It'll give you a reminder to join that live chat. I would love to see you at 2 o'clock this afternoon for that live chat. Now, we'll be unpacking a lot, and there's a lot to unpack with this forecast as well. Some changes since I last saw you here. First of all, we do not have that area in yellow anymore in the Caribbean. We'll talk about why that went away, but now this Invest has an orange highlighted area. Better chance of development with that, especially over the next couple of days. But we'll start with the Caribbean. And again, this area that we had been monitoring just off of the coastline of Central America, it has not looked any more impressive over the weekend. So the Hurricane Center has wiped it away, says they don't expect any development out of this now. That's great news for our friends in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. Now, maybe you guys need some more rain and want some more rain, but obviously we don't want to wrap up a tropical system as well. I do expect more moisture to be headed your way, if nothing else. So we'll see a little bit better chance for some showers in those areas late weekend, early next week. I'll highlight that ahead. But again, for our friends in Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, including Haiti and the Turks and Caicos, at least the Turks and Caicos in that system, we're not going to get any development. Now we have to talk about this area in orange. Again, this one cropped up early on Saturday, and this one looks to potentially spin up very quickly. It may be very short-lived, but we could end up getting a tropical depression here in the next 24 to 48 hours. It's a very sheared system. You know, all the convection right now is along the center and the eastern sides. It's fighting some wind, and eventually it's going to get ripped apart by that as well. But again, it's fairly close right now to the Turks and Caicos, and the forecast does drift it fairly close to the eastern side of the Bahamas over the next couple of days. I can show you the water vapor imagery on this, and the reason why I want to show you that is, again, it's going to very clearly show you the dry air that it's already going to begin to bump into. You can see that here on this water vapor imagery. You're looking at the reds of the dry areas, the greens of and the blues of the moisture-laden areas. Notice that in its path, and pretty far south, even for late October, it's going to be running into some fairly dry air quickly. I mentioned this in the last forecast that southwest wind should pick up and begin to curve this back up to the north and eventually to the north and to the east. But again, the opportunity before this really gets into that deeper layer of drier air that we get a tropical depression to develop. So I'm not expecting anything potent, but again, if nothing else, it's going to bring some wind-driven showers to portions of the Turks and Caicos and the Bahamas here over the next couple days, and obviously kick up these surf and sea conditions as well. So what do you say we take a look at that here? Going to switch on over to our model here. This is the GFS model. Throw this into motion over the next 5 days. And again, nothing is going to be very wrapped up here. We don't really see much, and eventually it's going to merge with the trough, become an elongated system, and move up to the north and to the east. But we'll be putting more moisture, if nothing else, through the Bahamas, and we'll get more wind-driven showers out of that area as well. Take a look at the wind profile here for the GFS model to kind of just pick out if we can see anything that tries to spin up out of this. And we'll certainly see at least the opportunity briefly to get maybe a depression, and then it weakens, and then actually the next front coming in just after Halloween will actually drive some heavier breezes back to the northwest Bahamas as we get towards mid and late in the week. But again, not expecting this to be anything extremely significant there. I'll go on over to the NAM model real quickly and show you that. Then we'll take a look kind of locally at what I expect for some of the Bahamas with our high resolution HRRR model. But taking a look first at the winds, we'll just go ahead and look at that out of the NAM. It's a little bit stronger out of the NAM. It just keeps this system a little bit longer before it dissipates. Again, nothing very significant here, but you can see on the NAM model, it develops it. It does move a little bit closer to the northwest Bahamas. So, if the NAM were to verify, we'd be watching a little bit closer places like Abaco and New Providence on over towards Grand Bahama and Walker's Key and the Bimini area. But again, it would just really drive up some surf and sea conditions before that wind really dissipates. I'll show you the reflectivity out of the NAM model as well. Put that into motion, so you're seeing the rain that would come along with it. It's just a little bit more concentrated again for the Bahamas. It's nothing again extremely significant, but you can see it kind of shoots its way a little bit quicker north and west before it kind of fades away. So that's what we expect over the next 48 to 72 hours out of that area in orange. Potentially a quick brief spin up. A tropical depression is possible, and again, the Hurricane Center has upped that chance to 50%. Now, I can switch over to the high-resolution HRRR model here, and we'll zoom in on the northwest Bahamas. So for my friends in Marsh Harbor and Freeport, and Lucaya and West End and Nassau there, let's take a look at the rain we expect in this area. And again, you're going to see these brisk east to northeast winds pick up, as you saw in that wind profile, and we're just going to see even a little bit of twist on the northern and western sides of that broad disturbance moving through. So more wind-driven rain. We've had a lot of strong east and northeast winds lately in the Bahamas, and that looks to continue, especially with this spin-up happening just off towards our east. So that's what we'll be watching here as we get through the remainder of the weekend and into early in the week. But you can just see those wind-driven showers coming in. Certainly expect that to be something that is going to be sticking around here for a while. All right. Let's get back to the broad perspective again here, because the next thing I want to focus in on is what's happening with the heavy rain potential for portions of Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and the Leeward Islands. We still have this moisture axis. Again, that area that developed came off of this moisture axis. We had a nice little twist in the atmosphere here, and you can still see on a north to south fashion, we are getting flare-ups of showers and storms. Now, it's extremely area dependent, okay? Not all of Puerto Rico, not all of the Virgin Islands, not all of the Leeward Islands have had significant rain, but the opportunity to continue to see some significant downpours and leading to some flooding is still going to be with us at least through Monday morning. Now, the good news is the models are trying to take this heaviest moisture and move it off towards the west after that, so we don't prolong the potential for the heavier rainfall. But let's take a look at the rain right now. We'll start with Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands here. I'm going to again take this model and we'll go out 5 days. And then I'll throw that into motion and we'll take a look, and you'll notice that the heaviest rain is going to fall between now and Monday. We'll start to see that push off towards the west. So for places like Roadtown and the British Virgin Islands and St. Thomas and St. Croix and the eastern sides and the southern sides of Puerto Rico, again, still the opportunity for some heavy rain, especially today, early tomorrow, and then moving off towards the west after that. So we'll still see the opportunity for several more inches in some areas, but thankfully, starting on Tuesday, I expect this moisture to basically break up and move off towards the west. It's going to be a very interesting scenario with that, and we'll highlight that coming up. But for places like Anguilla, on over towards St. Martin and St. Kitts and Nevis and Barbuda and Antigua, you will see the opportunity for some heavier rain through at least Monday afternoon as well. And we'll watch out for the possibility of some isolated flooding in those areas. Guadeloupe on over towards Dominica and Martinique and St. Lucia. Again, about the same scenario here. Still some good opportunity for downpours through at least, let's say, Monday afternoon, and then fading after that. But a relatively wet Sunday through the remainder of the Lesser Antilles, even down towards Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada, you're going to have yourself a pretty decent opportunity for some solid rainfall totals. Speaking of that rain, let me zoom back in a little bit more here. I'm going to stop the model and we'll swing over to the total precipitation product here on the GFS, loop that up. And again, what you're going to be looking at on this model is the potential for more significant rain in some areas over the next several days. Now, this is the rain, from now until the 2nd at 5 p.m. So it's not including what's already fallen. So this is additional rainfall. And again, we're still highlighting the same areas that have had some of the most significant rain on the GFS model, and that is going to be portions of the Virgin Islands and potentially the eastern sides of Puerto Rico. So again, looking at the potential for what else could fall between now and about 4 or 5 days out. So the Road Town area, about 5 more inches here, towards about 5 inches when you get to the western sides of the British Virgin Islands, and then towards St. John there in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and then on over towards St. Thomas. Again, you're looking at around potentially 6 more inches of rain. Again, don't look at a particular number, but we're looking at an average here, which still shows a high rainfall potential, and these could be flooding rains when you're adding it all up. Culebra, Esperanza, Fajardo there on the eastern sides of Puerto Rico towards San Juan. So again, there is this moisture axis, this north to south moisture axis, and if it lines up over the Virgin Islands, we could still see some significant rain there. Now, we're still going to see some good downpours for places like Anguilla, on over towards St. Martin and St. Kitts and Nevis, but is it as significant? More than likely not. Still could lead to some isolated flooding. We've had, some flood watches and advisories issued for portions of the Leeward Islands over the weekend. That could continue. Check in with your local areas as far as that goes. But again, just giving you an idea that although it may not be 4, 5, 6 inches of rain, 2 to 3 could still fall in St. Lucia, and some decent rainfall totals for even Trinidad and Tobago as well. I know a lot of folks down there said, hey, Rusty, we actually could use some of this rain, and we've got a couple more inches potentially coming your way over the next few days. But again, for the areas that have already had some excessive rainfall, especially back up to portions of the Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, when you're adding on these kinds of potential extra rains, it could potentially be an issue here. So let's talk about that real quick. Flood watch is still in effect. The National Weather Service in San Juan for Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands through Monday morning. Rainfall of 3 to 6 inches in total, locally up to 8 inches is possible. And again, the impacts continue to be flooding of urban areas, roads and streams, maybe even some rivers going over the banks, and then in some of the higher elevations, mudslides in those higher terrains. So flood watch continues through Monday morning, but thankfully after Monday, we will more than likely begin to see this rain move off towards the west. So let's pick this up here. Let me clear off those numbers because I want to kind of discuss the broader perspective here. All right. So we had this rain and this moisture axis already develop and spin up one area, right? That area to the north and to the west. I can show you that again here. Let me just put on the 5-day formation zone. So we're looking at right here. So showing you the GFS model here, I'm going to put this into motion just over the next 5 days. I want you to notice, do you see this broad twist here? All right. The model is beginning to pick up on at least some rotation with this disturbance, if you will, moving into the central sides of the Caribbean. So just like we had this spin up on the northern side, the GFS model is picking up on some broad rotation here on the southern side as well. Now, look, it's very far in the future. These models consistently shift a lot, especially with areas that haven't really developed. But I just wanted to show you again that on this GFS model, we do have a little bit of a twist and certainly a lot of moisture. So we could see more rain moving back towards the ABC Islands and then eventually west towards Jamaica as well. Now, I'm going to take this model out and I'm going to bring it out 10 days. And again, this is simply for informational purposes only. But, before I come on here, I do my homework. I take a look at a lot of the different models and a lot of the different things that it's the solutions that it's showing you. And I just want to show you that on the GFS model, that as of this model run of this forecast, it is trying to take that and spin it up into something as it moves west through the Caribbean. Again, don't focus on the fact of where it might be headed. Just know that the GFS model says, hey, look, just like this area here, there's a possibility in the southern sides that we could wrap some of this up as it moves into somewhat favorable environment here. Now, the Hurricane Center has not, even issued anything as far as we're watching this area or an invest. Again, I'm just passing this along for informational purposes. Look, I could show you all the way out to 384 hours. And the GFS does wild things, okay? You know, that's not the point of this, but again, as I was going through things, I was noticing that from that 6 to 10 day time frame, it is trying to wrap this system up as it moves north and west. Now, to at least back up the short term of this, if I go back to the NAM model here, and I put this into motion over the next 4 days, what you're gonna see is the NAM model also picking up on a ton of moisture moving into the central Caribbean, all right? You can just see all of that on the NAM model. And again, even maybe a little bit of a twist there as well. We'll look at the wind field out of the NAM model. And again, the reason why I'm showing you this is that, you know, I wouldn't want to just show you one model and be like, oh my God, look at this massive storm it shows. That's not what I'm ever going to do here. But if there's a couple of different models that say, hey, look, you know, we at least have a lot of moisture to play with in this area and the potential with very, you know, favorable conditions for something to spin up, I'm going to show you that. So again, we see just some broad wind coming in the NAM model, at least nothing over the next 5 days that would be of a concern. But again, just a ton of tropical moisture coming in with this. And that is what I did want to highlight here, again, with both the NAM and the GFS agreeing there. So within this area, potential development late next week is something I'll be watching. Again, Hurricane Center hasn't had any discussion about this as well, but you know, this is why we peruse these models to kind of give you guys some potential heads up. All right, I do want to wrap this up by getting back into Tammy real quickly here. And again, just Tammy is luckily fading. You know, winds continue to diminish. It's going to get absorbed by a frontal boundary anyway, so Tammy is going to end up being gone. So the big areas of interest here as we move into the remainder of Sunday and into early next week, obviously this potential disturbance that's wrapping up as we speak and could become a tropical depression in the next 24 to 48 hours. We'll talk about how close it will get to the Bahamas and portions of the Turks and Caicos, and then this moisture axis with the potential for more heavy rain through the areas I already mentioned, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, portions of the other Lesser Antilles, and then what happens as that moves off towards the west. I think it's going to be very interesting over the next 5 to 10 days. Friends, appreciate you again. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing. And remember, if you subscribe, hit that notification bell. We'll give you the reminder of the live chat that we'll be doing at 2 p.m. later today. Please come back and join me. I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Let me know what you're thinking about. And we'll see you later today at 2 p.m. for that live chat. Thank you so much, friends. Thank you for joining us right here at Meteo Mundo.